Do colors arranged in rainbow order always make you smile? I love a good rainbow project, especially when it uses my scraps. Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm going to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. I have the Spellbinders color block shapes. I have a diamond and a hexagon. I've used these before and showed you a different way to use your scraps with them. Today it's going to be a little bit different. I have taken a rainbow of colors in a pale version and then a more saturated or bright version. And I have cut the pale version with the solid dye and then the more saturated version with the with the dye that has all the different layers. So there's multiple diamonds cut, and then you can line them all back up and they create this really cool texture. There are so many gorgeous projects that I've seen with these, and I rather imagine some of you guys saw those too, and maybe you picked up a few because they're really inexpensive. So I wanted to come back and share another idea with these, and I've shared a third idea over on Instagram as well. I'm going to take the largest of the brightly colored shape and I'm going to glue it down on top of the pale shape that is solid. And so it creates a little bit, because that top image has some dimension from the bottom image, it creates that little bit of dimension and interest there. And I'll use my Barely Art glue because I find that it dries really clear and holds really strong on these little delicate pieces. It's definitely my go-to glue for any fussy gluing that I have to do with die cuts. Then all of the extra layers of diamond that are created with the darker cardstock, I'm going to use that will have been used in the other Instagram project. So none of that went to waste. And these small shapes are great for using up your scraps because they are so tiny, and you get the solid version as well as the layers. So you can just use the solid version as I showed in my last video. Once I have a rainbow of shapes, I'm going to pause on that part of the project and get my sentiment ready. I decided to try to heat emboss because when I work with rainbows, a lot of times I like to put them on a black background because I think that they really pop off of that high contrast. And so I wanted to get the look of white heat embossing on black cardstock. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm white heat embossing on black cardstock. But I'm not very good at it, guys. I have all the right tools. I have the Rabbit Hole Designs anti-static powder tool that everyone loves, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the tool. I think the tool is great. I have the Versamark ink, which is what everyone recommends. I'm using my Misties so that I can get a good impression, and I've used my Twiddler's Nook stamp pressure pal so I don't press too hard, because that's the other thing, you can squish it and then you don't get a nice even look. So I've done all the right things, and yet there's always still some stray embossing powder. And I'm sure there's some of you who rather imagine that I'm the crafting expert because I've been doing this for 15 years, and here I am helping on YouTube to try to show people things, but no, I definitely have some parts of crafting that are just I'm not very good at. And so please share all of your heat embossing tips. I'm trying to heat on both sides, and I know you can take a little brush and try to push some of the powder out of the way, but I just never seem to get a perfect image. So I think the other tip that at this point maybe it's a little too late and I'll have to get a new embossing powder is that they say not to move it into those bigger containers. So I move my embossing powder into a sandwich size container so that it would be easier to pour over my projects and dump back in, but they said that could be detrimental to your embossing powder. So maybe that's the tip I need. But if you guys have the tip, because this is another tip that I'm doing here where I'm using the Post-it note to help me to cut because I can't hold on to that little skinny piece of paper. I didn't come up with that. You guys did. Thank you to everyone, because there was many people who shared that tip with me to use a sticky note, and that has helped quite a bit. It's not perfect in terms of it doesn't solve every little problem that I have with my paper trimmer, but it helps tremendously, and I've used that tip several times. So I will, after I've done heat embossing, and you probably think it looks fine because from far away, the heat embossing isn't so bad, but up close, there's definitely those stray bits that I just can't seem to help. I think a lot of people have turned to foiling because it seems like maybe it's easier to get a good impression with foiling versus heat embossing. Like heat embossing is maybe a little bit more finicky, but I have not invested in any hot foiling yet. But I will say I love when Simon Says Stamp and Paper Rose, and there's probably more, but those two companies have those things where they print white sentiments on black sheets of paper, and they sell them in packs, and you cut them apart, and I am all about that because I love the look and I can't do it. So if you are like me and you struggle, hopefully read the comments and hear everyone's suggestions, but also check out those, and I'll leave a link to some in the video description just because, I mentioned them. I'm going to glue down my diamonds here in a rainbow pattern, sort of staggering them. And I did the same general look on a card, but with the hexagons, and that's what I'm going to share over on Instagram in my reels. So if you like shorter videos where I kind of get to the point a bit more, be sure to head over to Instagram reels. There's no voiceovers there, but there's usually some little instructions in the video description, or if you're a more experienced card maker, you can kind of follow along with what I'm doing in the short video. Getting the spacing on these, I wish I could say that I planned it out and thought about it very carefully, but I didn't. I kind of laid them out ahead of time to see if they would all fit. And then after that, I just kind of eyeballed it and wound up having to, I believe, trim the card a little bit shorter, or if you wanted to even it out a bit more, it kind of depends on your personal preference, because obviously the red diamond is a little closer to the left side than the purple diamond is, and so that's just kind of going to be what it is. Sometimes I don't always want to do the math. Sometimes I just want to enjoy the card making. So once I glue down that sentiment, then I will be finished. I do want to be careful not to try to put glue straight across, because then it will be kind of lumpy bumpy over all that texture on those diamonds there in the back. If you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.